Yo, what up?
Yo, what's up? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad that we can make this work. Thank you for giving your time. What a crazy, wild month it's been for you.
Yeah,
I appreciate you very much. I know this stuff is not easy to talk about, but we've talked about it before. This is important work. It's important to elevate these issues. So thank you so much. I
my
did a little bit
pleasure.
of talking about you before you jumped on and just all the amazing things that you've achieved in the industry. But it was Global Citizen that we first met, right? Was that the first
Yes,
time
in
we
the
actually met in
flesh.
person?
Yeah, that was the first time we met
Yes.
in the
But we had,
flesh. But I was a fan of yours before that, and still am a super big fan. And I actually, this is random, but on the hold on one second. The on the TC Helicon,
mm-hmm.
um, I use your preset sometimes
Oh,
on
you're
the TC.
kidding.
No, I'm dead serious, but I use them on the trumpet, and they're amazing.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm excited to talk on the level of musicianship today and just really dive into what our responsibility is as musicians, and especially because you and I have both had quite a lot of experience in improvisation and jazz, and as we know, that's been a language of protest in the past. But I can't, start without first touching on the infamous incident. And I hope it's okay to ask you to just, inform everyone watching today where we're at, where the case is at, what the latest is, and just, yeah, if anyone doesn't know what happened recently, would you mind just unpacking it a little bit for us?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me. It's been a wild ride since December 26th. Um, Me and my son were basically just trying to have a good day, trying to get some food downstairs in the hotel. Um, we walked downstairs, and you know, it was surreal. And to me, I'm still in shock that there was this person who was irate. Um, and it was so ridiculous that I thought it was a joke. So I started recording. But
Right.
this person, basically falsely accused my son of stealing her cell phone. And I told her over and over again, my son doesn't need to steal your cell phone. He doesn't have your cell phone. And, you know, it's it's just a ridiculous thing. But what happens after that when it comes to the manager who basically
Yep.
believed this person who wasn't even a guest. I'm a guest at the hotel.
Yes.
Um, but the manager chose to believe this person who he didn't even, well, I don't even know if he knows this person. Maybe he does. Because the way she touched his back, maybe they do know each other.
Mm.
But it was, um, I don't know, it changed a lot of things because, first of all, you get a chance to see how people take, um, how certain people can activate a system of racism,
Yep.
can activate a system of bias,
Yes.
and they can act on their bias. People don't have to say the N word to do something that's racist or do something that's just unfair. All they have to do is believe somebody who doesn't deserve to be believed. So in this case, the manager believed this person over his patrons.
Mm-hmm.
And in the whole context, I'm using my words to let them know that you have the wrong person. You have the wrong person, and to basically you know, just listen to me. Chose not to listen to me. And this whole time, me trying to stay cool, I was still just trying to go get some food, just trying to go get brunch.
Yes.
And, so I tried to walk away, and this person came up and attacked, you know, attacked me and attacked my son. Um, and this is the kind of thing that I've been trying to shield my son from for as long as he's lived. But, staying in a high class establishment like the Arlo Hotel, I wouldn't expect to be attacked in this kind of scenario. Um, it's a very unfortunate incident, and I tried to do everything I can or everything that I could to de-escalate it. which was
Yes,
actually the manager's job. And
that's right.
he did the opposite.
Hmm.
You know, he played right into it with this lady. I personally call it the pretense of innocence. That this person, that first of all has no credibility at all,
Yep.
but this person chose to believe this person, which actually empowered this person to attack me and my son
To
in the
further, yeah,
establishment.
yep,
Exactly.
yes,
So in the context of that, the system is activated because whether this person is white or anything else, this person used that knowing what would happen. You know, she deputized the manager. The manager um, did nothing to help me.
yep,
Um, then, you know, they never reported her. I had to call the police on my own. After showing them the video, I mean, millions and millions of people have seen this video now,
that's right.
and they all, you know, pretty much agree with me that it was a terrible scenario. Well, the
Yes.
management, they didn't think so. They didn't think it was a big deal. They thought she was just having a bad day, and that's what it was, you know. So, in the context of it all, many people don't know how they play into the system. And how that happens is believing the wrong person, not listening to the right person, or giving the benefit of the doubt to the wrong person. And it happens over and over again. Um, the person, I don't even like to say this person's name,
No, I agree.
um, you know, played into the idea that, you know, I'm only 22.
That's right.
But if you know Emmett Till, if you know about Emmett Till, who was
Mhm.
killed at the age of 14, my son is 14, um, was basically lied on and falsely accused. And the lady who falsely accused this kid of whistling at her, he was lynched. And this lady was 21 and she's still alive, never been, you know, convicted of anything, and she's still alive. And she's come out and said, you know what, it was false. But in the context of what I'm dealing with, many people don't understand how these little things are a microcosm of what goes on every day. Many people end up in jail. Many people end up in prison, fired, or killed, you know, by law enforcement, by their employers. Um, so many things happen when that system is activated. So when people say, "Oh, I can't see how you think this is a racial issue," I guarantee if it were the other way around, there's no way I would have left that hotel. They allowed this person to leave the hotel. There's no way that I wouldn't have been arrested or detained if the shoes were on the other foot. If
Yes.
I came in and attacked a white kid,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way that I would have been let go or anything, and there would have been a report against me. I had to file my own report
God.
in context. So that being said, avocation is everything. I can't imagine what would have happened if I wasn't there for my son.
And I think that's a really massive part of this situation is for people with children or even without children to see the fear of a father trying to protect and look out for their kid, and that primal instinct that we all understand regardless of race is to
Hmm.
protect and to find a way to prove your child innocent and at all costs. Now the fact that you even had to do that in the first place is so, it infuriates me. But then on top of that, what this means for your son at 14, to see how he is treated in this context and to have to hold on to that and all the attention around it. I mean, how is he feeling at this time with so much that is being brought up around this issue and being central to it and feeling like he had no power in that situation? That's what infuriates me, is there's no power or respect to believe his father's word. What does that do to the spirit? That's, I mean,
Oh
God.
man, it's detrimental. It's the epitome of marginalizing a people, a person. I mean, in this context, they found the right person because you know I just refuse to to give up. I refuse. You know, I'm relentless in the idea. I'm relentless for justice. I'm relentless for protecting protecting my son. But just every movement, like I said, activating the system, is all about marginalizing people of color. And I hate that that's a reality. But there's so many people who actually just, I don't know, they refuse to actually even see that. Some people say, why didn't you just show her your phone? Can I go to someone else's house and just say, you know what, I lost my Rolex. Let me check in your jewelry box and see if my Rolex is in your jewelry box.
Right. Right.
What if I was going into a bank and I
Yeah.
lost my debit card and I saw a white kid and I said, you know what? Let me see your debit card to check and see if it's not mine. I would be in jail so quickly. It'd be ridiculous, but I have to make those kind of analogies just to show how ridiculous it is.
That's right.
As a as as a black person, the idea of having to always show my ID, always having to prove that I belong, always having to prove that um yeah, that I belong. Even in this hotel, that person was not a patron, that I was a patron for over 3 weeks. You know how much money that is to pay somewhere and be in a hotel, a nice hotel for 3 weeks.
Right. Yes.
That I still had to prove to myself or to prove to these people that I didn't steal their iPhone. Like, really? I have 2 iPhones. My son has one. I don't need your
You're
iPhone.
good. Yeah, exactly.
You
I
know?
think, like, oh my Lord, the lack of remorse that this woman has shown, the lack of accountability, the lack of insight to be able to see what a potentially healing moment this could be, to watch a white woman actually say, look, I see what I did here, and take
Hmm.
action. The lack of that has been probably, you know, on top of the hurt that you've gone through, that the second hardest thing for me to watch is the absolute inability to speak to the problem directly, to see it for what it is. And also, we spoke a little bit about this earlier. What I find really fascinating is this woman has been asked to be seen and accepted for all the facets of who she is, right? I'm 22. I'm Puerto Rican. I was in a
Hmm.
bad mood. I was like, okay, so she's being asked to be seen for all of these different parts of who she is.
Hmm.
Now, you don't get that same treatment.
No, I
You
don't. I
get
don't get
seen,
that. That's the reason why I
you
call
don't
it
get to be seen as a father. You
the
don't get,
pretense of
no,
innocence. It's like
yes,
it's always the benefit of the doubt.
yes,
No matter what, no matter how cruel, no matter how horrible this person acted as a human, which is tragically consistent for who she is.
yes,
As far as the stuff that she's being prosecuted for at the moment is very consistent to who this person is, who's actually a danger to society.
that's right.
But
Yes.
but you chose to single me out as if me and my son were the criminals, as if
And
me and
also
my
to reduce you to such a
exactly.
one part of what makes you who you are, an incredible, jazz musician, a father to your son, a person going out, a person with plenty of money to buy an iPhone. But
Hmm.
to be reduced to your color, the humiliation of that, it angers me, and it is such a lack of equity, because she is being asked to be seen for all the things that she
Hmm.
is. I'm all, and it's,
Exactly.
yeah, I found that really hurtful, and it really, I want to be really transparent about how hard these moments are when I watch this stuff play out, because it's so easy for me as a white person that is your friend and has so many friends in the industry who I know go through this every day, to be like, I would never do that. I would never do that. I would, it's not, that bitch, that, to talk in that way about this thing.
Hmm.
But I want to also look at how these moments are so much bigger than just the moment, and how
Exactly.
they teach us to take a look and think, what would I do in that moment? What would I, because you know that this is not the first time this has happened to you. And I want you to talk to me a
Definitely
little
not.
bit about what that moment of you going like, you know what? I'm taping it this time. I've been through this enough times. I'm going to pull out my cell phone and I'm going to show, because I think white folk are having to reckon with themselves watching that video and thinking, could I do that? Could I reduce someone in a moment? Am I past that? And I
Hmm.
mean, that's a scary thing to think about, isn't it? That under pressure, when it boils down to it, what are our values, and what do we'd like to think that we would never do that. But I'm scared that the system, now here's the thing, the hotel manager re-emphasized that microaggression that she showed. They leaned into it, went all the way, and
Absolutely.
supported her. Now, what does that bring out in her? Justification.
Absolutely.
Justification that she's in the right. And
She's
that's the scary,
emboldened.
right. That's a really scary thing, isn't it? When the system reinforces your racial, bias, and they are standing behind you and giving you, her the benefit of the doubt. And so, yeah, it's just, oh Lord, it gets me angry. But I have to be really careful that I don't go into that space of saying, I want to always be careful that these incidents make me turn in on myself and look to where white folk can be doing more work to see how they are already walking into these situations with biases. And can you talk to me
Hmm.
about that a little bit? About,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
please.
mean, we all have biases, and nobody is immune to having biases. But there are biases um that can really change things, that can change somebody's life in an instant. There are biases that can really marginalize somebody. And the fact is, most people, or a lot of people, never really have to face that.
Right.
But, as you said, you never really know what's going to happen until you get in that scenario. We seen what happened in this scenario with the manager. He decided, in his bias, he felt that, what? Let me give her the benefit of the doubt. She's going through, she's lost her phone. You know what? Let me shake down my customer who hasn't been downstairs, who's been upstairs, since last night, who's coming down. Let me shake down him and basically probe him because this lady said so. This person has no basis, but the bias, the implicit bias that he has in himself, believed and gave her the benefit of the doubt that, what, just maybe he might be the
Yeah.
one.
Right.
Just maybe. So, but it happens so often. It
Yeah.
happens so often. I mean, I've been profiled, racially profiled my entire life. I remember being, pulled over and set out on the street like I was a criminal, like to show cops when I grew up. Many of my friends, many of my brothers, many of my, my people, we know what that's like. So it's not nothing new to me. When I go outside, the idea of racism is like putting on a shirt. Um, it's nothing new to me. Um, so the idea of me recording,
Yes.
because I know how quickly things could change, how quickly things can go by. Just, as of late, since we've all had cell phones and had the witness of a cell phone, you start to see these kind of things happen more and more. Before, it's so easily swept under the rug. Oh, you're overreacting. It's not really that big a deal. I mean, I still get messages like that from people. You know, why are you going so hard on this lady? I'm like, first of all, if this was your child, what would you do? Second of
Yes.
all, are you black? Do you understand the implications of what people say? Like
This is
in the
sometimes about
context,
life and death. Yeah, this is
absolutely.
often about
Yeah,
life and death. This is not a little overreaction. This is real life.
listen, if
Yes.
if if there was a cop there, when my son came down in this scenario and they seen this ruckus, who knows what would have happened? Because the
Yeah.
pretense says, you know what, believe that person, and it's an anti-black kind of ideal. Many of my friends are white. I have amazing friends, and they're incredible people, and I talk to them all the time about all kind of things, and we're just good people. But there is um still there's an idea that, what, I've never lived your life before, so I can't really understand it. I've never lived your life before, so I'm kind of far removed from your experience, and that
Yeah.
happens so
Right.
often. And you hope that being so far removed, that it doesn't affect somebody um in the wrong way. This person doesn't realize the implications of wrongly accusing a black child. The manager doesn't realize.
No, because they haven't
Yeah,
had to, Keon. They haven't had to realize that, and that's the thing, isn't it? When you live with this reality every day, this is on your mind. You know where it can lead. but I don't think that is crossing the path. And I would
Hmm.
say it wouldn't cross my path probably at times of my life too, before I sobered so much to anti-racist work and still doing the work. But when you don't have to think about that option, it skips your mind and the
Hmm.
implications. You're right. I see how you're saying like this time I'm gonna show this for what it is, because if it had been different, we might not be standing here today, and with a much.
100%.
Talk to me
And
about
that,
protest now. What
oh
does
man,
protest look like with social media? This is a new time, man. Like, you have started something really big here by filming this, and that moment of pulling out your phone. Did you know what was going to come of this? Did you have a
I didn't
feeling that?
know. I didn't know what was going to happen, but nowadays, is we see so many crazy things happen, as a black man, and I hate to even have to
Yeah,
categorize
I
myself.
know.
I hate to look at myself, more than just a human, but
Right.
I have to say it to show that there's a difference, and that difference must be recognized, because there is two justice systems. There is two worlds of reality. And the idea that some people are not conscious, you know, or they choose not to see the other side. They choose not to be empathic, or they just can't be empathic about it. They don't realize the tragedy that they can cause. So the idea of protest, me showing what was happening
Yes.
and pointing it out, is a call to action for us to change.
Yes.
Like for me, I've always said in this whole thing, it's not even about an apology, because that person doesn't even know what she did wrong. She doesn't
No.
understand the
Oh,
implications.
I
This is
know.
this is this is so much more than an apology from that person. This is about the collective of people who've done the
Wow.
same thing, or don't realize what they're capable of, or who haven't seen it up close.
No.
Literally, I
Yeah.
had
They
to
might not have.
basically,
Yeah.
nah. If I didn't have my phone recording, this person actually went on CNN and said that I attacked her,
I saw that.
even after the fact, even after the videos came out. You
Which
know,
is
with
so disturbing on so many levels. Like
you know,
that's, yeah.
and it's still saying that my son somehow stole her phone, even up till today,
Wow.
which is just the most ridiculous, delusional thing. You know, but what I'm saying is the idea that it didn't even matter if this person was a poodle. The fact that Chad set it all in motion is the problem. But the idea of me protesting this is showing establishment and
Yes.
showing people how they play into
System.
this bias,
That's
and how they
really
play into,
important distinction. Yeah, it's
you
one
know.
thing to say, let's get this woman into jail. And of course, that's part of it, isn't it? You've got to hold the person accountable.
Hmm.
But what I've been really impressed with is the way that you're working this, is you are calling people to consistently take the next step. What is the
Hmm.
next step? Okay, we got her. Now let's talk about the hotel, because there are tiers of this. There are tiers and tiers and tiers. And that's what Down the Rabbit Hole is about, is actually
Hmm.
looking at in our music industry, which I want to move to next. We see
Hmm.
this play out all the time. We have racism on the level of musicians interacting with each other, and then we have the music industry, which actually we see it at the worst, which is the executive level, and that's
Hmm.
where so much of the stuff is getting infiltrated down. And tell me how your life as a musician has played into your idea of protest and your sense of what your work is on
Hmm.
this earth, and why you took it upon yourself, because this is not an easy thing to do, to say, no, it's part of my work as a musician, as God's messenger, to talk about this as part of my work on this planet. Talk to me about the connection between music and this form of protest.
Hmm. I look at it as vibrations. I feel like everything on this planet, you know, is all about vibrations. As an artist, as a musician, you know, our job is to just vibrate to people's core. I've always lived by that as a trumpet player, as a vocalist, in any way possible, to just try to vibrate people so they can see a difference. Um,
Mm,
so that being said, I've always been about social justice. I'm usually the person who's basically, I wrote a lament for Mike Brown, who was killed in Ferguson. and all of the people, Tamir Rice and so many people killed wrongly, and just the struggle of Black people, because I care about Black people, and I've always used my platform as something to basically share the message, because many people are so far removed, especially, excuse me, in some places I play. The people who are at the venues, they're far removed.
Yeah.
With the high ticket price like that,
Right.
they have no idea. They don't have to live with what's going on in the hood. They don't have to live with what's going on, with the everyday person. So basically, I've always taken it upon myself to give that perspective, to show people that, listen, we're all here together as one world, and we can all do better to make it better. We need to find a way to leave this planet better than how we came at it. So I'm making my business to do that, and I've always done that. This, in the context of protest, is so visceral and so, just so close to home,
Yes.
that is just kind of like, wow, it happened to me. And I
Yeah.
had to record it. And some people will say, "Oh my God, well, nobody ended up dead." This is how it starts, though. Most people don't see how these things start. Nobody
Right.
ended up
That's the
in
key.
jail.
Yes. We've seen the inception. That's what you recorded, was the inception, the seed of how these things get in. Because, once someone projects that opinion, it's lodged in the system, someone reinforces it, and this is how things build and escalate to the worst possible scenario. And you captured the turning point, that moment of white immunity. She knew that she could do that, and no one was going to take her dragging down the road. She knew her
Exactly.
word would be taken as the that's really interesting, man.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a innate kind of feeling, that when people see that video, they know exactly what you just said. They know it. They
Yeah.
feel it, as to the reason why it resonated in that way.
Yeah.
I showed this video to the hotel. It was no big deal.
Wow.
It was just, oh, she was just having a bad day. Don't worry about it. You know,
I'm
I'm
really
like,
sorry you had to deal with that. That must have been incredibly disillusioning to see people see that video and not see what was taking place. Tell me where that's at now with action for the hotel. What do you want to see? I imagine many of the people working there, I'm assuming, well, I know this man was white. What do you want to
mm,
see in terms of accountability for them to say, we are on the side, we're out white ourselves and we have an opportunity here to show that we can do better and to take accountability? What does it look like to you? What does justice look like in this situation?
I mean, honestly, justice is an ongoing thing. As for, I can't really talk too deeply about that, but for the most part, is basically people getting the training to realize that they do have biases, realize that they do have inclinations to side against Black, and to ask themselves, why is that? Why do you you know why do you choose to believe somebody that you don't even know? Why do you choose to believe somebody only because they're not Black? That is a strong thing. So I feel like there definitely needs to be training and courses to really
Yes.
deal with this bias, as
Yep.
as one of the things as far as justice, because I don't think I'm going to stay back at that hotel probably ever, but the idea, there will be other Black people that stay there. There will be other
Right.
people of color
That's
that
right.
stay there. So can you imagine? I'm pretty sure this is not the first time this happened. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying?
yeah, I get it.
So it's just not been recorded. So in the context of that, people have to basically search themselves. And some people refuse to search themselves because of, I guess, maybe narcissism or whatever. They can't, they couldn't believe that, oh, I would actually do that. Oh, I
Right.
would actually support somebody who doesn't need to be supported. You know, it's it's such an unfortunate reality. In all of my trying to communicate in the most simple, most concrete, most
Rational, restrained,
rational,
yes, I know.
calm
Yep.
in the context of the situation,
Mm-hmm.
basically trying to just continue to be collected while my son is being accused, of something that he would never do because I raised him better than that.
Because you, yes, yeah, you
You
raised
know,
him with values. Yes.
so he has, and it's unbelievable to see, just the quickness to actually side with somebody that, now you start to see exactly who this person is. So many people have posted these videos of her literally being a criminal
Yeah.
and, a public menace. Um, and it's, but you chose to side with that person over a person who's just trying to go get some food.
That's right. And a person who had to show such restraint when, as you said, a lot of people have commented that they couldn't necessarily show the restraint that you have. And I think
And
that's,
that's not just black people.
no, of course not.
That's white people. That's white men. That's
Yes.
white women.
Right.
And and they say, I don't know how you did it. I would have knocked their head out. I don't know how you did it. I would have did X. I would have did this. But at the same time, me knowing who I am, I had so much more to lose than that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I show restraint, knowing the implications of if I make this action, if I do this. But even that is a part of marginalizing people of color, knowing that what, you got to be careful because you got a lot to lose. So that is always in the face of action, which is such a very, very real thing. But at the same time, sometimes it can save your life. And
When we come to the music industry and we look at the executive level of where this stuff is being embedded into the fabric of, whether it's lack of ownership with black artists, whether it's just outright segregation in genres, the
hmm
inability to see equality and equity in the music industry. When you think now about your role as a musician, when you go back into live performance, which you and I are begging to do,
looking forward to it.
right? It'll come eventually. But how do you see yourself able to take this situation, all you've learned from it, all the power that's come with it as well, and think about your own sphere of influence, which is the music industry? Because that's where you and I live. That's where we make
hmm
our money. That's where we have our influence. And that's the gift that we use to communicate. Do you does it shift how you want to approach music, or is it almost like, I've been doing this all my life, the social justice is central to music anyway, I'll just keep doing what I do? Or do you
hmm
feel, because I know after all of these conversations I'm so compelled to want to make change in the industry and stop looking at just the small sort of tier, but actually the higher tier, like right up at the top? And
hmm
a question we always ask on Down the Rabbit Hole is, what would you like to see change in the music industry? What would you like to see change in the infrastructure of that system, which, let's
hmm
be honest, is not too dissimilar from the infrastructure of the Arlo hotel system?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it always comes down to avocation. You know, as artists, we're always taken advantage of because we don't have an advocate, or the advocate doesn't have the information.
Mm,
So I feel like there just needs to be a much easier. Um, you remember Kanye was doing that thing with the contracts
yes,
a
I
few
did.
months
Yep.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, what, we just need contracts to be simple. You can go anywhere in the world, you can buy something, and you just get a receipt, or it's
Right.
really simple. It's really simple, but you have a 50-page contract basically that's enslaving you, you know, over and over again. How do we make it more simple? You know, I just want the industry to realize that we have more power as the individuals, as the artists who make this. We have
Yes.
more, we have more power than we think. So how do we use that to, how do we weaponize, you know, our voices in that way? Um,
That's
It's
really powerful, dude. This idea of advocating. It's a word that hasn't, I mean, it's a word that I haven't thought about a ton in this context, but you were that to your son in that moment. You advocated and you stood up and you said, I'm going to do something about this. I'm not just going to be, and I'm thinking like for white musicians like myself, for all of us involved in the industry, how can we advocate for one another? How can we be that person in the room that says, yeah, but where's your representation at, man? If you say that you're releasing R&B music and you're, how diverse is this at the
mm,
executive level? Where's the advocating is such a powerful word that I think we can all meditate on in
hmm
situations where we see power being played out. How can I advocate for the person who has less power in the situation? How can I speak? And this is where we come to white accomplices, right? We've tried to move
hmm
away from the word ally because there's something passive about it. A
hmm
white accomplice, I hope, is someone who not only, speaks truth to power, but aligns alongside and advocates. I'm
hmm
really thankful for that insight there because you've shown us what advocating looks like on
hmm
camera in a
It's
calm, restrained way, which you didn't have to be, but you knew that
man.
that would get your message across.
hmm just the idea of avocation is almost like I'm gonna say it's an oxymoron because the reason you need avocation is because there's injustice at play. If people could just be genuine people and respectable people and people who genuinely live for fairness, we wouldn't need an advocate. We could just show up,
Well,
do our
exactly.
music, and just be. But the
Right.
fact that we know that instinctively, and um, we know that things are not fair. It's definitely murky waters when you're dealing with certain executives, when you're dealing with certain club owners, when you're dealing with certain promoters, certain agents, certain different people.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be murky, and things are always convoluted in a way that's again that believes the people it believes the executives over the actual artist who's coming there, who's making
Right.
a sacrifice, who's coming to share their story. They're finding ways to nickel and dime you always. So I feel like what needs to change is that they need to make contracts and different things like that really, really easy to understand,
Simple. Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
share the equity more. There's a lot more options now as to how to put music out, and how to survive. But even still, the industry still plays in basically marginalizing the actual artist. And you know, I definitely call on my white friends to basically you know show um how much show homage to how much black music has influenced you. How show be real, be fair
Be real.
in
Yes.
in the context of knowing that, listen, if you never heard Stevie Wonder, if you never heard Prince, if you never heard Miles Davis or Michael Jackson, if you never heard R. Kelly, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you never heard any of these people, what would your music really sound like? What really would be your
I wouldn't
approach?
sound. Yeah. No,
You
I'm
know,
gonna be the first to admit
and
that. I mean, yeah,
and it's the kind of thing that is just being honest.
it is.
But some people don't have the ability to be honest in that. Um, so at the end of the day, we just all want fairness, in the context of what I went through, and which is interesting because it's such a microcosm of the whole world. What I went through
Yeah.
the other day with my son, it's in every part of our life. That's just one inkling of how the systems totally is set up against you. And that's a horrible feeling to actually have to walk out the house every day and know that I'm gonna have to fight against that every day. You know.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't know in the same way, but I can only imagine. And I so often play out these situations with the use of imagination of what could have gone differently in that moment. So I can try to imagine if I had been there, how could
hmm
I have helped that situation? What could it have looked like? I think it's an interesting thought exercise to do sometimes.
Man,
And,
I run
what
it
would it
back
have
every day. I run
every
it
day?
back,
What could it
you
have
know.
been like if that man had actually been an accomplice in that moment, or a white person in the hotel had said, hey, excuse me, this man hasn't done anything. Can you please step aside, to step into that situation so you didn't have to be the one defending yourself, but someone could stand up and advocate for you? That's what I want
Hmm.
to see. That's where I want. And this leads me to, I'm getting to my last question here, which is, we can sit and listen to your experience for, another hour and still be shocked and disillusioned by how horrific this is. But at the end of the day, Keyon, you and I both know that the thing that has to change is what white people are talking about amongst themselves. What that white woman talks to with the hotel manager, what that conversation they are having and having
Hmm.
with their families at home, because this is our work to do. So if I could ask you, with all the stuff that you've learned in this last month, like, what's something you wish that white people were talking about amongst themselves to do
Hmm.
with this issue? What
That
would you
is an
hope for?
amazing question. And it's you know, a friend of mine used to tell me, if you ever want to be a household name, you have to be able to change hearts and minds.
Hmm.
Period. As an artist, if you ever want to do that, you have to be able to change hearts and minds, not just black people, but all people. And that's a human issue. I want people to basically be talking about, in the most basic sense, how can I be more human? How can I grow to be more empathic about the things that I don't know about the people that I don't understand? Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean you don't play into the system. And, I feel like that video showed that. I feel like there's been a lot of conversations that people don't necessarily have to have that they're having now about the idea of race, the idea of how the system is overly activated daily. There's so many people, and I keep saying it, are in jail, have been in jail for 40 and 50 years for being wrongly accused by somebody. That's a life change. That could have been, that could have been Stevie Wonder, the
That's
next
right.
one.
That's right.
That could have been the next Clifford Brown or Miles Davis or
We don't
whoever.
know the talents of
You
these
know,
people sitting, paying. Yeah, that's right.
So I hope that the conversations are about, looking at it from the context of what if that was my son? What if that were, what if that were my dad? What if I had to worry about, um, what if I had to worry about that? What if I had to worry about knowing that if this person lies on me, this other person is going to believe them immediately with no
Yeah.
basis. Knowing that every time I go outside, that I have to worry that, you know what, I don't, as much as I would love to trust that person, that if this person pulls a card and says, you know what, this person did this to me, that, they deputize somebody else, and that would start the system of marginalizing this person, or basically, showing to this person that, listen, I'm in control of you. And that's what it was all about. This whole thing is about control.
Power and control. Yeah.
Power, and just showing that, listen, just look, all I have to do is like, I can attack this person and there's no consequence. I can, lie on this person and there's no consequence. I can, deputize the manager of a hotel and there's no consequence. I can, be the most violent person to call somebody in public, even though this is a public figure
Yep.
that I
That's
didn't
right.
know, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I
Mm-hmm.
can do this, with no kind of with no kind of punishment, with no
And
kind
no
of
conscience,
anything,
as we saw,
you
no
know,
conscience about it.
no conscience at
No
all,
self-reflection and be like, let me
no
look at it. Yeah, that's the
no
hardest thing to
respect,
watch.
you
That's the
know.
hardest thing to watch, is the lack of self-reflection. And I feel that responsibility myself to be like, as the white folk that are listening to this conversation right now, it's like, how can we do the self-reflection that she did not do? because she's not going to do it, and she did not show
No.
that she's going to do it. So how are
Right.
we, and maybe this is where I will leave it, Keyon, is like, I want to advocate for you as my friend, as my,
Mm-hmm.
as someone in the music industry that I respect and admire and, plan on working with in the future.
Yes.
Hell yeah, how can your white musician friends, your white friends in the industry, what can we do right now to advocate for you and this cause? Because that's what
Right.
needs to happen is action. Tell me.
Right now, we have a couple of petitions out against the
Okay,
hotel, and
great.
basically calling for more charges against this person as far as a hate crime. We have basically maybe share the things that I'm posting, that we're
Yep,
posting,
yep.
to create this awareness, because the thing is, most people don't have to see this. Most people are so far removed that it's just not a big deal.
Yeah,
And then, you be so far removed, but then a scenario like this happens and you don't understand why you acted in the way you just did. Why did you believe that person? You know? And then
wow.
it only takes one time. It only takes one time. It only takes one time.
Only
You know.
one time to
You
change
know,
lives,
so
to change.
so
Yes. Yeah.
so I basically am just asking everybody to continue to support. I'm thankful for everybody who supported. It's been overwhelming,
Well,
support.
thank God
But
people are
I feel
supporting. Yeah.
like people are about truth. So continue to support the
Mm,
truth.
the
I
truth.
feel like
Yeah.
the truth vibrates.
It does. It does. And it is already. And I see that. I see that it's starting to cause a stir. And people want to see, especially when she shows such a lack of conscience with this. It's like
Hmm.
we want to show, hopefully, that's what I want to see in white folk as well. And in myself is this fervor and vigor to see justice. For
Hmm.
too long, we've been on the sidelines of this fight. Oh,
Hmm.
I'll turn up at the protest and hold my sign, but I'm not really. And I want to see fervor. I want to see anger and outrage and and be behind the cause as an advocate and as an accomplice. And I hope
Yes,
you
accomplice.
feel encouraged by the support. Yes, yeah, I do, and I want to see it change. And can people find that petition on your
It's
Instagram?
it,
Will
it's
it,
in the
is it an
link in
easy
my
thing to
bio.
sign?
Yeah,
Okay,
the
cool.
petition is in the link in my bio on Instagram. And it's also in my attorney's bio as well. So
Okay, yep, fantastic.
attorney
Keyon,
Ben Crump.
you are an inspiration. Okay, you didn't have to do this. No, you didn't have to take this upon yourself, bring your son into the limelight even further than he already was, and put this pressure on your family. You're doing this because you're fighting for people, for truth, for justice. I want to speak blessing over you because this is important work, and only you can tell this story, this specific story that came into your life. Only you can tell this one, and you're choosing to
Hmm.
put it on display. And yeah, as the members of Down the Rabbit Hole and the people that have been following this series, we stand with you. And thank you for being so generous to explain a little bit more about the deeper, like the deeper causes of this stuff, and helping us to see that it's not as simple as just what we even see on that video. It
Hmm.
runs even deeper, and this is just the inception. So you really helped me understand that. Thank you. Um, you'll be sharing some resources with us for the people that follow this series, and people can find that on the Demon Dap Instagram page. So we'll be continuing to follow up and just keep doing this work, and I encourage everyone to sign the petition, stand with Keyon. And
Yeah.
and everyone check out Keon's music too, because like for real, you haven't really been able to talk about your music for a while because you've been so focused on this, but
Yeah, it's
Keyon
the
is
weirdest thing
insane.
not talking about my
You know what I
music.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of want to get back to just playing, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
But
Keon, and have a great day.
as a human though, we have to ask, who are you without your instrument? That's what my
Oh,
one of my
yeah.
teachers used to say. Who are you without your voice? Who are you without your, what kind of human are you without the, your paintbrushes or whatever? Who are you?
Yeah.
We have to aspire to
Who
be
are
greater
you?
humans, greater humans, to make this world a better place. And, before we go, you brought up something just a second ago, and you talked about the idea of telling this story. I was working on this song about George Floyd. Um, and I I felt it was an ode to him and his family and his daughter. But at the same time, not totally. I couldn't totally hold on to it, but now having the story that I have on my own, I have the context to what that music is now.
Wow, you have
You
the
know,
story to understand it, and to it's personal now. So it gives
yeah,
more life to that music and to that song
absolutely,
that you, wow.
yeah,
Will you release that soon?
yes,
Oh yeah.
yep,
Shout out if you need a vocalist, okay?
absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right, man. Thank
All
you,
right,
and we'll
my
talk soon.
pleasure.
God bless you, all right?
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.